So, let's talk Sonic. All of this is based on my own personal opinions and experiences. Also, I am no game designer, so just bear that in mind. That said, there are some elements that I feel make a good Sonic game, and I want to talk about them. The things I'll talk about are flow, rhythm, tension, secrets and experimentation, gimmicks, and aesthetic. First, let's talk about flow. Flow is basically when you can keep moving through a level without really stopping, maintaining momentum. It doesn't have to just be forward momentum either. You can smoothly change it into vertical momentum as long as you can keep moving. There are two things that are necessary in order for this to happen. The controls need to allow for it, and the level design needs to allow for it. As far as controls, we should probably avoid things that kill too much of the forward momentum, like jumping if you're circling the game, and the homing attack in other cases. But there's something else you might not consider that can affect flow, and that's how floaty Sonic's jump is. You see, when you have a less floaty jump, you get back down on the ground quicker. When you get back on the ground quicker, you are able to more quickly get back into a position to jump over things that can halt your momentum. Like that. But the previously shown is also a level design issue, so let's talk about that. Put simply, hazards and enemies that can halt forward momentum need to be well telegraphed. For Sonic, a lot of what this means is essentially controlling Sonic's speed. You don't want to have stretches of downhill or level terrain that encourages Sonic to build momentum only to shoot him in the face. And when you're going fast, you don't want to have enemies shoot projectiles from the direction he is traveling in. No, what you want to instead do is either completely kill Sonic's momentum with a rock, which feels awful, or use ramps and inclines to slow Sonic down naturally, converting his momentum into vertical momentum. Enemy type and considering what movement options Sonic has actually at any given moment matters as well. Another thing is that Sonic can't generally see that far above or below him, so be mindful about that as well. Now, both of these could be addressed by zooming out the camera, but yeah. Now let's move on to the next point, rhythm. Rhythm is just another way of me saying that moves flow into each other and you need to time them, like this. Wall jumping to where you must time a short hop. Falling to where you time a light dash. Letting momentum carry you to the point where you'll time a stop. This is going to involve giving Sonic moves to time on the ground and in the air. The classics have a move you can time already in the air called the Insta-Shield. I don't think I need to explain how a double jump encourages timing. And the Bubble Shield's bounce can probably be used in the same way the Stomp can. I think an air dash could be timed when you reach a certain point on the y-axis, reach a certain height, or fall to a certain point. Now, does Sonic need abilities like this? I think it's better to have them, but at the same time, if we simply reduce air time, it might not be that necessary. We could make Sonic less floaty, or we could be careful to place upwards ramps and inclines where jumping often will not lead you to flying through the air. Instead, we want you to actually be flying to higher parts of the level. Now for the ground. I'm not really that concerned about the ground, because before we even add real level mechanics, Sonic already has some moves he can time on the ground, built into a slope physics system. You know, time jumps off planes for distance, time jumps off ramps or height, time jumps off declines or speed. You get the picture. Though there is something I want to bring out about this. Something like this tends to not actually be accessible that much on a casual run, by which I mean you have not memorized the whole stage, like in this level. You're often jumping things that are not even on screen. First thing, I want to zoom the camera out or angle it a bit to where the information needed to determine this would be good to do is actually on screen, and maybe emphasize such jumps a bit more. Kind of like, yeah, a little like this. let's move on to the next thing, tension. Need to get one thing clear that's very important. Tension is not difficulty. Difficulty refers to what you're being asked to do. In this case, tension refers to your feelings toward the consequences of failing to do that thing. Difficulty and tension can be related. If you're in a hard section, you want to avoid falling so you don't lose progress, or failing. Well, really, both are interchangeable there. But again, though they can be related, they are not the same. And there's one source of tension I feel is really fitting for a franchise like this, and that is tension to maintaining momentum. Going fast already creates this to a degree. You naturally just want to keep that momentum going. The ranking system also kind of does it, but the ranking system also kind of makes it to where things need to constantly feel tense. Exploring at your own leisure is not really something encouraged by this system, and nor is it generally encouraged by the level design built for it. No, what I think would work better is rewarding maintaining momentum more directly. Think CD's time travel or Advanced 2's boost mode. Though to be honest, we don't really need those, in part again because of Sonic's physics. You need the momentum gained from the level to make bigger jumps like this. And so if there were any obstacles here that would block that momentum, you'd really care about jumping over them. Or at least, you probably would care about that if it weren't for one mechanic, the spin dash. I believe the spin dash to be a problem, for it removes motivation to maintain momentum through a level so as to make use of it later. It also kind of robs such jumps of their timing aspect, messing with the rhythm mentioned earlier. Like people like to tell me that spin dash jumps require timing, but I don't really see how. Timing involves doing an input when the player reaches a point, neither before or after, or when a foreign object reaches a point, neither before or after. Well, there is no when X reaches a certain point because nothing is moving, and therefore there is no before or after. Outside the accessibility thing, I really think the existence of the spin dash hurts the game more than it helps, or at least I would if it weren't for this next point. Secrets and experimentation. Spin dash jumps are one of the things that can be used to perform skips. Those are generally enabled by a level looping back around in some way, rather than just going straight forward, to where later parts are accessible by higher jumps off inclines and farther jumps off planes. Even this skip was only possible because the level loops back around. Of course, it would be cooler to use built-up momentum to make the jumps necessary for such skips, but the spin dash simply makes possible more of them than what would be possible otherwise. Even this one. And of course, experimentation also results from things like, I wonder what rolling here gets me, or what if I jump off this slope at speed? Now, I grouped experimentation with secrets for a reason. It's just satisfying to think, I wonder what's down there, or up there, or back there. You follow that hunch, and you're rewarded. It's actually very similar satisfaction to experimentation. An observation is made, a plan is consciously framed or executed, and you get results. Can't believe I almost forgot about this. Probably not a good sign. Whatever. Okay, when it comes to challenge in Sonic's platforming, that tends to come more from its controls than the level design, which isn't something that can be communicated well through video. SRB2 exemplifies what I want pretty well. Because of Sonic's momentum in that game, you have to really be concerned with letting go of forward or braking at the right time midair so as to land on platforms. It is in fact this element that makes me say that SRB2 is pretty much the only Sonic game ever that actually gets platforming correct. We could make the challenge come from the level design and not the controls, but that would involve drastic changes to Sonic's control. When he gets up speed, Sonic generally can't stop that quickly. And outside Supersonic, you can't really turn around midair at all when he gets us to speed, which is kind of a requirement for challenging precise platforming that calls you to make midair adjustments to your position at specific points during the arc. I mean, could you imagine doing this with Sonic's controls? How about this? So next up is gimmicks. I don't have a lot to say here. Again, not a game designer. I will say that a staged gimmick should contribute to the sense of flow, either giving momentum or at least not halting it for too long. Also, they could perhaps thematically or at least aesthetically fit the level. So next is aesthetics. Again, not a game designer, definitely not an artist. I will say I like color though. However, I think I'll just mention some stuff I agree with that has been said about Sonic Adventure 1. Don't make the levels feel like linear tracks disconnected from their environment. Instead, make the levels feel like you're traversing through the environment itself. And that will be all. Thanks for your attention.